Hi everyone, my name's Jen. I'm an author and a book reviewer, and I'm really pleased that I'm getting to sit down and make this video for you today. I kind of suspected that there would just reach one Sunday where there would be no new video from me and I would have to explain why on another platform, which would have been absolutely fine. But I'm grateful that I've made it to this stage, that I can sit down and talk to you properly and wrap things up. Because as I am filming this, which is a little bit before you are seeing it, unless someone else has other plans, in 4 days I'm going to be having a baby. So this is the last video that I'm going to be uploading to this channel for a little while, and I do mean a little while, do not panic. So I thought we should talk about that. And then also I have a pile of books that I want to chat to you about, and also we're going to talk about some favourites in this video as well. I made a video back in October where I talked about the fact that I was pregnant, and also shared in that video that I wouldn't be sharing things going forward. I wouldn't be talking about pregnancy, I wouldn't be sharing baby stuff when the time arrived. And I think because of that, whenever I have briefly touched upon being pregnant in subsequent videos, many of you have been perplexed and confused and surprised because you missed the original video in October, which is fair enough. I do not expect you to watch every single video that I upload, but if you're watching this video and you are confused, I will link October's video in the description box down below and you can go have a watch. But essentially, as I explained in that video, and as many of you know, this has been a very long and difficult journey for us. It's been 7 years of IVF. And I'm just feeling very precious and close about the whole thing. This is not an area of our lives for the internet, both for privacy reasons, but also because I'm just very mindful of how difficult it is to listen to someone chat about motherhood and being pregnant, if that is something that you are wanting to be part of and for whatever reason haven't managed to get there, or you've suffered losses. I know how that feels. I know how painful that is. And yeah, that plays on my mind a lot. So for lots of different reasons, I haven't been sharing pregnancy things, and as I said, I won't be sharing baby things going forward either. But wanted to have a brief chat today because obviously I'm going to be leaving you for a few weeks. My plan, because I have planned and prepped as much as possible for this, but at the same time, I don't know what the next little while is going to hold. So my rough plan is that I will be away for the rest of March and will return in April, probably not in the same capacity, so probably not videos every single Sunday, but building up to that again. And I know that you're all going to be very patient and kind, so I thank you in advance for that. I'm a self-employed person, so maternity leave looks slightly different for me. I know maternity leave looks different all over the world, and some countries don't even offer it, and it's ridiculous, and that is a conversation for another time and makes me very angry. But I am grateful for what is available in the UK for those who are traditionally employed. If you are self-employed like me, it is harder. I am eligible for taking self-employed maternity leave, but if I take that to the full extent of it, if I take that, it means that I'm not allowed to earn money doing anything else. I'm not allowed to do any other work at all, which would mean I would lose all of the freelance jobs that I have built up over the years. It would mean I couldn't have this YouTube channel, I couldn't have Patreon, and it's just not something that is realistically, viable for me. So I'm taking about a month off of work altogether and then coming back to work in a reduced capacity, and YouTube is one of the things that I will be continuing with. So if you've ever thought about supporting my channel on Patreon and would like to, that'll be linked in the description box down below. That may sound like a strange thing to say. Hey, have you ever thought about tipping me for my content when we're entering a period where I may be uploading less than usual? But I use Patreon as a consumer to support creators whose work I really enjoy. And I think the ethos behind Patreon and the way that I use it as a viewer is to support people who I would like to be able to continue creating work in whatever capacity they can. I think that's kind of the point of the platform. So if you have been watching my channel for a while and that's something you've been thinking about, the link is down below. There are non-monetary ways that you can support me as well by subscribing and liking and commenting and mentioning my channel to friends. That's very helpful. Or you could purchase a book of mine. That does involve money. Or you could take a book of mine out from the library. I've written loads of books, and all of that is very, very helpful as well. So I just wanted to mention that too. Is there anything else that I wanted to say about this? I mean, there are so many things that I could say. As you probably can imagine, it's been a very complicated time, and especially towards the end of the pregnancy, I'm not sure that my makeup and wigs have ever worked so hard in videos. I am really proud of myself for being able to create content weekly right up until birth. Again, it would have been fine if I hadn't been able to do that. But as I've mentioned before on this channel, it is very helpful to me, not just because this is part of my job, but just mentally it's very helpful for me to be creating content on here. So I'm pleased that I have been able to do that. But yes, if I can stand up very awkwardly, as you can see, I'm just about ready to pop. So yeah, we've definitely got to the end. So in this final video, what I would like to do is do a little book haul, because I have some books that I would like to share with you. And then also I would like to talk about some favourite things. Many of you have messaged me asking if I was planning on doing a my favourite things of 2023 video, because I often do those. But to be honest, in 2023, I didn't have many new favourites, which I think is a good sign, as in I've just continued to love things that I've discovered in previous years. I will say I discovered a new favourite granola. I don't know if that happens to interest anyone at all. I think the brand is Eat Natural, and it's a low sugar granola, which doesn't sound particularly exciting, but I'll put the cover here. But it's so tasty. I think it's because it's mainly coconut and seeds, and I don't know, it's just delicious. So that was my favourite thing maybe that I discovered in 2023. But to be honest, anything new that I discovered last year was mainly pregnancy and baby related, which is not stuff that I'm going to be sharing on here. Though, top tip, I didn't actually have to buy many new clothes at all last year. I think I bought one pair of maternity dungarees and a couple of tops, because the majority of my wardrobe is from Lucy and Yak, and I have generally just oversized clothes anyway. So Alexa trousers that Lucy and Yak sell, I am still wearing some today, and I am full term and they still fit me. I don't understand how, because I've grown a lot, but yes, if you are looking for maternity wear that you can also wear afterwards, Lucy and Yak is probably a place I would recommend. I mean, their dungarees don't fit me anymore, but their Alexa trousers absolutely do, and all of their jumpers, because they're hugely oversized. Anyway, so yeah, the favourites I'm going to chat about are TV shows that we have really enjoyed, and also a couple of YouTube channels that I discovered last year and found particularly calming. And before that, I have some books that I want to share with you, and I will list them in the description box down below. One of my most anticipated releases for 2024 is this book here, which is Mongrel by Hanako Footman, which came out a couple of weeks ago. This is about 3 women. So we've got May, who loses her Japanese mother at age 6 and is growing up in the countryside in the UK. Then we've got Yuki, who is leaving the Japanese countryside to pursue her dream of becoming a concert violinist in London. And then we have Hiroko, who is attempting to navigate Tokyo's nightlife with all of its many vices. I think perhaps that all 3 of these women have lost their mothers, and that's the theme that's linking it all together. But we'll find out when I get round to reading it. I requested a copy of this, which is a short story collection that's coming out in June. It's called For Such a Time as This by Shani Akilah. Very much complements the jumper that I'm wearing today. This is the cover of the proof. I'll insert the final cover here. I don't know much about this apart from it's a collection of stories about a group of Black British women living in London and about their friendships. I'm not sure if it's a collection of interconnected short stories or if just the theme of friendship is what links everything, but I look forward to finding out when I read it. Then I've been sent a copy of the new TM Logan book, which is called The Dream Home. I read his book, The Curfew, I want to say maybe May last year, when I was doing a trying to find a new favourite thriller video, and I was really swept up in it and really loved it. I've since read other books by him, and none of them are books that I enjoyed as much as The Curfew. And I don't know if it was the time and place that I read it, but I would still like to read his latest one, see if I love it as much as The Curfew. As I said, this is called The Dream Home, and this is about a family who move into a house, and I think they find a secret room there. Let me just remind myself by rereading the blurb. Yes, Adam and Jess move into a new house with their 3 young children, a rambling Victorian villa in a nice neighbourhood right at the very top of their price range. Before long, Adam discovers a door hidden behind a fitted wardrobe concealing a secret room. Inside, he discovers a collection of forgotten items, a wallet, an expensive watch, an old mobile phone. Jess thinks they should simply throw it all away, but Adam resists. He is fascinated by these items and how they came to be inside this hidden room. But like the house, Adam has his secrets too. And soon he will find himself setting in motion a series of events that will place his family in terrible danger. So yes, I may read this one in physical form, or it's one that I may listen to on audiobook. I don't know who is narrating it, but Richard Armitage narrated The Curfew. So if he's doing this new one, I would like to listen to that, please. I was sent this by Granta, which is a copy of Hiroko Oyamada's The Hole. This is not a new book by her, but they have been reissuing some of her backlist titles after the publication of Weasels in the Attic in the same style. So they brought out The Factory again last year. I did not enjoy The Factory, but I did enjoy Weasels in the Attic. So I look forward to seeing if this is one that I like or really do not like. This is translated from the Japanese by David Boyd, and it has a very Alice in Wonderland feel to it. Adult Alice in Wonderland. So this is about a woman who moves to the countryside with her husband because of his job, I think. And then one day she follows a creature that she sees and she ends up falling down a hole and going on an adventure. It is extremely short. I think it's about having an existential crisis. Then this is a book that Mercedes bought me, lovely Mercedes. I'll link her channel in the description box down below. She gifted me this for my birthday. This is Call Up the Waters by Amber Caron, and this was a book I'd never heard of before, and I was really glad that she took the plunge and decided to give me a book, because not many people do that, you know, which I understand, but it is nice to be gifted a book as a book lover, especially one that I had not heard of before. This is a short story collection. Part of the blurb says the characters in these 10 stories, search and rescue workers, dog trainers, naturalists, archaeologists and dowsers, are each fundamentally shaped by the environment in which they live and work. They seek meaning through labour, connection through jobs, but in that searching they often find themselves far from their destination. Familiar landscapes suddenly feel strange, unfamiliar spaces offer something like hope. Off the map and off the grid, these characters and their regrets and devotions are nevertheless immediately intimately recognisable. So thank you for that, Mercedes. I've obviously thanked her personally, but worth saying again. Then this is a book that I was sent by Licorice Fish Books. That's really hard to say. Licorice Fish Books, which is a publishing house I had never heard of before. But this definitely sounds like my cup of tea, and again, feel like camouflaged a bit here. This is Smiling at Grief in a House in a Forest Where Life Grows by Jan Fortune. The title very much reminds me of Matt Bell's book, A House Upon the Dirt Between the Lake and the Woods. I have a soft spot for really long titles, but yes, this one sounds intriguing. It's told in a series of vignettes like this, and the blurb is super short. It says, Summer Solstice 2065, 16 years after a devastating pandemic, Viola sets off into the forest to prepare for the gathering of her community, bringing their ghosts and fears, hopes and secrets, knowing a single day can change everything. And the forest too has stories of grief and resurrection, trauma and forgiveness. Inventive and moving, this richly layered narrative asks what we mean by consciousness and a life well lived, human or non-human. Beyond the end of the world, where is life to be found? It sounds great. And then the last book that I have to talk to you about before we move on to favourites is this book, which is also coming out in the summer, I think, 6th of June. It is called Hard Copy by Fien Veldman, and this is translated from the Dutch by Hester Velsman. This sounds like it would be good for fans of Convenience Store Woman, for There's No Such Thing as an Easy Job, maybe for We Had to Remove This Post as well. It says, this is a story of girl meets printer. A customer service assistant spends her long work days printing letters. Her one friend is the printer, and in the dark confines of her office, she begins to open up to him, talking about her fears, her past, her hopes, and her dreams. To her, it seems like a beautiful friendship is blossoming. To her boss, it seems like she's losing her mind. Diagnosed with burnout and placed on leave, she faces severance, and worse, separation from her beloved computer. But she's not about to give up on her only friend without a fight. And it turns out neither is he. This also maybe could be the book that I've been looking for that talks about work culture that reminds me of the TV show Severance. Maybe I'm just thinking that because the word severance was in the blurb. I don't know. But either way, I think that book sounds great too. So those are a few new titles to add to the TBR. I should say I do have some exciting plans for videos going forward, but I won't say what those are just yet because I don't want to disappoint you if those videos don't happen. But yeah, I have lots of plans for 2024. In the meantime, let us chat about a few TV shows that Mr. M and I ended up loving last year. And I will also link a couple of YouTube channels in the description box down below that I have enjoyed, because the channels that I have been gravitating towards are mainly videos where people aren't talking so much. Specifically a channel I think that's called Solo Travel, which is a woman who is showing you around Tokyo and Kyoto, different food that she's been eating, but also different seasons, so taking you around the gardens of Kyoto in the autumn. Just so beautiful and so calming. Have loved that. And I've also discovered a few travel channels that I've been enjoying. I'll link them in the description box down below if you want to go and take a look. But yeah, these are TV shows that I would particularly recommend. I've got 10 that I wanted to shout out. I have an honorary mention, which is The Traitors. I don't feel like I need to talk about it because I think I talked about it in my 2022 favorites, but there obviously have been new seasons since then. So if you're somehow someone who hasn't heard about The Traitors, it's based on a Dutch TV show, I think, but the first UK TV series came out in December 2022 and the second season came out in January 2024. It is a bit of a murder mystery, so it's 22 people who are in a Scottish castle and several of them are told that they are going to be the traitors and the rest are faithfuls, and the traitors meet every evening and decide who they're going to murder. All of these, air quotes here. So people gradually get eliminated and the faithfuls are trying to work out who is a traitor, who's pretending to be a faithful. It's very dramatic. It's just so good. It's hosted by Claudia Winkleman. There's a UK version. There must be so many different versions around the world, but I've also watched the US version and the Australian versions. The second season of Australian Traitors was one of the most infuriating things I think I've ever watched on TV. I was definitely hate watching it at points. If you've watched it, you will probably understand. And I look forward to watching the second season of the US show in the coming weeks because it's going to come out on BBC iPlayer soon. But yes, it's worth the hype, and I just wanted to give a shout out. But I have a top 10 that also does not include The Traitors, so let me start there. And these are in no particular order. So Generation V is a show that we watched recently. It is a spin-off of the show The Boys, which is a very twisted, messed up, humorous show about superheroes. It's basically asking, what would Marvel be like if it was actual real life? What would people do if they had superpowers? Because probably they wouldn't be that great when it comes to morals. They would probably abuse that power. So The Boys is a show that I would very much recommend in and of itself. But Generation V is about a university where superheroes go before they enter adult world, and some of them will become part of the Seven, which is like, I suppose, the Avengers. And I loved it as much as I loved The Boys. Spin-offs sometimes just don't work at all, but I think that this stands on its own 2 feet, and I don't think you have to have watched The Boys before watching this one. I wasn't even aware that this had come out. I don't know if I had really not been paying attention, but if you're a fan of The Boys and didn't know about the show, I just thought I would flag it. But also it's worth watching on its own too. I should also maybe say it's very disgusting. A lot of body horror and a lot of quite explicit content. So if that's not your thing, then you won't gel with the humor. But if you don't mind those things, then please do go ahead and watch. The Night Of is a show that is old. I think it's, well, it's not that old, but it's from, I think, 2014, and it stars Riz Ahmed. I was just looking at a list of the best TV shows ever, and it was in the top 10 or 15, and I had never heard of it before. So I decided to check it out, and I'm so glad that I did. It's about Riz Ahmed's character, who's at that point in his late teens, I think, and he goes out one evening with the intention of going to a house party, and his friend lets him down, can't give him a lift, so he decides to borrow his dad's taxi and drive there. And when he's driving there, people think that he is a taxi driver, and they keep on getting into his cab because he doesn't know how to turn the light off. And one of the people who gets into his cab is a woman who he starts talking to, becomes a little bit infatuated with, and they end up spending the evening together, and then she is murdered. He is then arrested for her murder, and it's about the process after that, the legal process. It's about him finding representation. It's about his days in court. It's about his life in prison. It's really just about the legal system in general. It's very detailed, very slow paced, and yeah, definitely I think one of the best shows that I have watched and deserves its place on that list of best TV shows, you know, ever. Mr. and Mrs. Smith was something that I entered into with a little bit of, not trepidation, but I thought it might be a little bit rubbish. I don't know, it's a redo of, is it the 2005 film? Is that when it came out? With Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, about two people who are married, who are spies, but don't know that each other are spies, and have been sent to, at one point they're sent to kill each other, but before that they are living very secret existences and have no idea what the other person is doing. So this is a redo of that. It does not star Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. This is a TV show, and it's much slower paced than that. Mr. and Mrs. Smith in this instance have been paired together and do know that each other are spies, but they still don't know everything about each other's missions. It is a lot of fun, and I would recommend it for fans of my next recommendation, which is Beef, which is probably not a show that I need to give a shout out to at all. It stars Ali Wong and Stephen Young, and it is initially about road rage and about two people who get into a fight one day, and then they want to take revenge on each other, and it just escalates out of control. And I definitely think there are similarities between Beef and Mr. and Mrs. Smith, so if you've watched one but not the other, maybe go check out the other one of the pair. Hijack is one of the most intense things I think I've ever watched. If you're getting on a plane anytime soon, maybe don't watch it, but it is a real-time show in the same way that 24 used to be. So every hour of the show is an hour in the characters' lives, and it stars Idris Elba. He gets onto a plane and it is hijacked, and he has, I think, 7 hours to try and defuse the situation before the plane is going to be, well, I guess, destroyed and everyone will die. If you're worried about your blood pressure, probably want to skip, but it's very well acted. And the endings of these things, sometimes I find that they're not always that satisfying, are they? But I was pleased with the ending of this one too. I think it wrapped it up in the most satisfying way that it probably could. The next on my list is The Lazarus Project. I fell over my words there. The Lazarus Project. I think I mentioned this in my 2022 favourites because we watched season 1 back then, but there is a second season that has come out since then, and I actually think the second season is even better than the first, and I adored the first one. This stars Paparazzi, who I love, and it is a time travel TV show. That doesn't always appeal to me, so if the premise of that turns you off initially, bear with me. This is a show about a government group that knows that if the world is going to end, they can reset the world to the 1st of July, the last 1st of July that happened. So say it's the 1st of September, if there's a nuclear war and it looks like the world is going to end, they will press a button, the world will reset to the 1st of July a few months ago. And everybody, apart from the people who work for this government organisation and a few people who have special powers around the world, they'll lose their memories of what's happened in those past few months. But the ones who do remember consequently end up living their lives over and over again. They can change certain things each time, but inevitably certain things will repeat, and that ends up being extremely traumatic depending on what has gone on in that time frame. The trouble, I think, mainly with time travel narratives is that they can become quite convoluted and very complicated, and I do think that this one is complex, but in a really enjoyable way. It's quite slow paced in the first season to really let you get to grips with how the world works. The second season moves at a much faster pace, but you are up to speed, so to speak, with how everything works by the time you get to the second season. So I really appreciated that change in tempo. I thought it was brilliant, very entertaining. Next on my list, I have 3, I was going to say non-fiction shows, that's not what I mean, reality TV shows, 3 reality TV shows. The first is Race Across the World, and there are 3 ordinary series of this and a celebrity one. The celebrity one I actually really enjoyed. I often don't like it when they'll do a rehash of a reality TV show and put celebrities in it. It just doesn't work for me. But in this instance, they chose people who weren't super famous and also weren't reality TV stars either. They were famous for a specific, job that they had done. So I enjoyed it much more. But anyway, Race Across the World, the first season is a group of 5 couples who have to get from London to Singapore for the price of a plane ticket, but they're not allowed to get on any airplanes at all, so they have to travel by land and sea. They can get jobs along the way to earn extra money to top up their funds, and whoever gets there first wins. There are checkpoints along the way that they have to get to, and I just had such a great time watching it. So the first one is, as I said, London to Singapore, and then the second one travels, I think, down Central and South America, and then the third one is across Canada. The third one I think was my least favourite because the transport options were really, really limited, so it was less exciting. And then the celebrity version went from Marrakesh to somewhere in Norway and was also brilliant. Those are on iPlayer if you haven't seen them. Then we have Squid Game, The Challenge. I thought this was going to be rubbish. I was very, very skeptical about it. I think we're all familiar with Squid Game, the original, which, if I'm going to make a lazy comparison, is a bit like The Hunger Games. It's a Korean drama about a group of people who sign up to be part of this game where if they win loads of money, and if they lose, they are eliminated and die. In this version, you don't die if you're eliminated because it's real life, but people have signed up for this reenactment of Squid Game where a company has brought to life all of the games so that people can, I was going to say enjoy them. I don't think that that is the right word. And I just thought it would be a bit cringe and that it wouldn't be exciting if it was real life. And I just didn't see how it would work. But I think one of the reasons it did work is because everybody who entered was really obsessed with the original show, knew so much about it, and was just really invested. I think ironically it highlighted a lot of issues to do with reality TV as well when it comes to anxiety, and I think the psychology of it was really interesting. So if you have been putting it off because, like me, you thought it would be a bit awful, it's not awful, so give it a go. The third reality TV show that I wanted to recommend is a Korean TV show called The Devil's Plan, which was actually a recommendation from one of you, so thank you very much for that. I would say this is like The Crystal Maze meets The Traitors, meets something very educational. It is a challenge-based show where the challenges are extremely challenging, require a lot of thought, sometimes even a maths degree. So if you're looking for a more in-depth type of game-based reality TV show, then this one is for you. And then finally, my last recommendation is a TV show, a comedy drama called Boat Story, which stars Patterson Joseph. It is basically the UK's answer to Fargo. It's set in the northeast of England, and it's about a man who finds a lot of money on a boat that's been washed up on the shore. He realises it's probably dirty money, it's probably something to do with drugs and crime, but he could really do with that money, so he decides to take it. And then the person whose money it actually is goes after him. I hadn't seen the show made by the same people that came out a few years previously, which is called The Tourist, which stars, is his name Jamie Dornan? Subsequently, we watched that and enjoyed it, at least the first season. I thought the second season was a bit rubbish, but Boat Story is definitely my particular preference. It is very slapstick, very tongue-in-cheek. It has a lot of violence in it, but it is comedy violence over the top of violence, and I loved it. So if you're looking for something that is over the top and ludicrous, then I recommend that. I would love to know if you can recommend any shows to me in a comment down below, because I'm always on the lookout for other fun things to watch. So yeah, that brings us to the end of this video. As I said, it's going to be a few weeks before you see me again, and as I've been making content on this channel extremely regularly for 10 years, that feels a little bit weird to say, but I'm sure I'll be back before you know it. If you're new to my channel and you would like to subscribe, that would be lovely. And as I mentioned, if you have ever considered supporting me on Patreon, that'd be very kind. Link is in the description box down below. Patreon is a place where you can support creators whose work you like, and the support that I receive over there allows me to keep creating free content for you on here, and also funds my time making these videos accessible by creating captions and all of that good stuff. I will love you and leave you, and I will be back soon, and I'm sending lots of love. Bye.